A thing that always puzzled me was this idea, this concept of living with your parents being synonym of, you know, disgraceful behavior. There's got to be something wrong with you to still live with your parents. At the age of 18, you're supposed to leave, never to come back again. And that's what you're supposed to do. You become immediately part of the cool group if you have done so. But if you're still living with your parents, you're not cool. I always thought to myself, that doesn't seem right at all. Around here, people got away from their parents when they got married. You know, um, when you get married, I mean, it's comprehensible that the young couple wants, to build their own nest, so to speak. But it's not in all cases, because in some cases they get married, but they remain with their parents. And they all live in the same household. In the past, these households used to be big. There was the grannies, the uncles, the cousins, everybody lived together, and everybody shared tasks. And they had big yards, so they could, plant or take care of animals, and there was no need for resting homes or, those schools for children because there was always someone around the house who could take care of the children or take care of the elderly, you know, and that's how we ought to function. The more you divide and separate people, yes, um, the more difficult life becomes, in my opinion. But I think is a psyop actually to insert in culture, you know, that you ought to move at the age of 18. Why would they come up with this psyop? Well, the younger you get out of your parents' house, the longer you'll be paying rent. What do you expect at the age of 18? Already having property? Of course not. You're going to rent something, right? And young people, like, you know, most, not being around their parents, they tend to, spend and to spend more and, enjoy life, parties, restaurants, to the club, that sort of thing. And this can become an addictive circle. They might wake up around the age of 40 when the biological clock starts ticking. You see, they wanted you out of the house, out of your parents' protection, quote unquote, the fastest possible so they could turn you, into a resource, paying, rent and not, thinking about a stable life will just, keep you on the rat race, so to speak, on the rat wheel, giving everything to the system, you know. That's my opinion. Of course, not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody acts that way. Some time ago, I was listening to YouTube. It was this young, Irish person, Irish man. He's no longer living in Ireland, I think, but he went to the United States, to, I don't know, realize his dreams, I think. But he wasn't the type to go out to party, to go to the club. He said he lived in big cities. He worked extra. He didn't take vacation. He didn't spend, he didn't go out. He just worked and mind his own business. At the end of some 10, 15 years, he was able to buy a property in his home country. He bought a huge property, and then he just returned home and started farming and etc., etc. That's what you ought to do when the economy allows it. When the economy is stable, that's what you ought to do. To sacrifice, your time, to sacrifice, going out and partying, to come up with the most amount of money and then invest it in property, because it is the most important thing, right? It is. You no longer pay rent and invest in a property that has a huge yard so you can farm some things. Yes. Even have some animals, some fruit, you know. That's what everything ought to do. If you don't, if you don't invest in property, which is one of the most important and most valuable things on this world, it's more valuable than gold, in my opinion. Property, it doesn't lose, value, and you can do something with it. You can feed yourself. You can raise things and eat from your property. Gold, you can't really eat gold, right? If there's a disaster in an economy, right, tough times ahead, you can return to the base, so to speak, and you can survive. But those who invested, in some apartment in the city and they buy everything, already in the plate, and they don't own, or maybe they don't own anything. If there's an economic crisis, they are going to be in a very desperate situation. That's the reality for most people who lives in cities. They are all rentals in cities. Most. They're all rentals. They don't own property. They don't, economize their cash, their money to invest in something. One of the most common things in cities when there's a, economic crisis, people just go to the streets and sleep in the streets. That's the most common thing because they just, they just don't have money on the side or property of their own. And that is your main goal in life, is to get property on your own, of your own. Hey, if you manage to get some company while doing it, better. The company of the opposite sex, better. But in most cases, if you're a man, women might choose a man who already has property, right? But then it's a gamble because nowadays divorce is going rampant, and she'll just divorce and take half of all your shit. So it's not really fair, is it? You worked, and bought something, and then out of a marriage. So before marrying, be careful, and do, what's it called? You write an agreement. What's it called? A prenup, I think it's called. You write a prenup, you gotta be very careful because divorce has become banal. There's a whole industry behind, divorce. A lot of people making money out of the misery of others. It has become an industry. So yeah. All around the world, people live with their parents. I just don't understand. Well, I do understand, right? It's a psyop in order to, turn everybody into a rental. You'll own nothing and be happy. You'll just rent everything. not having your parents around, you will have tendency of overspending and overpartying, and yeah. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. Have a nice day.